Hello and welcome to Knit Designs. In this video, I'm going to share with you my progress on the sweater without a pattern. This is a sweater which I'm knitting without a pattern and I'm making it up as I'm going along. And also I'm really excited to show two knitting gadgets, which I'm going to, my very first two knitting gadgets, which I'm going to put to test today. This is a sweater which I'm knitting with very minimal calculations, and I'm adjusting my knitting as I'm going along by trying it on and seeing how it fits. So this sweater is a diagonal shoulder sweater, and the reason I opted for the diagonal shoulder design is because it requires minimal calculation and can be easily knitted top down. So a brief description of what I've done so far in case you're interested in repeating what I'm doing here. You cast on a number of stitches for the back length of your neck. In my case, it's 40 stitches. You knit one row and then you start making increases for the diagonal shoulder. I stepped away 3 stitches either side and made increases on the left and on the right. Once I've knitted the diagonal shoulder, I then picked up the stitches for so if you can see this ridge here, I picked up my stitches alongside this ridge, both sides, and then knitted the front of the sweater. So as I've said, I'm knitting the sweater without any pattern and I'm making it up as I'm going along. Of course, having prior experience of knitting similar garments really helps. Trying this on as I'm progressing, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this fit better, which allows me to learn new skills and find better solutions than versus a rigid pattern. If you watched my last week's video, I explained that I had a wrong gauge initially where the combination of 3 different types of yarn caused my fabric to behave differently at the top and at the bottom part and kind of the wider part of my knitting, where I ended up with a completely different gauge and misshapen fabric here because my original swatch was way too small for this project. This is a diagonal shoulder construction. So my diagonal shoulder is here, but my actual shoulder is kind of a little bit higher than that. And it creates this triangle shape here between the kind of this edge and the actual shoulder. I cast on 40 stitches for the back of the neck. I haven't shaped the back of the neck, and I think next time when I'm knitting this construction, I'm going to use short rows to further improve this line. This will be fine. I've already knitted this construction before, and knitting a straight line for the back of the neck is perfectly fine because it's compensated by the front neck shaping. The width of this part is I need to turn it over. So the width of this part from the edge to edge, because this was my original cast on edge, is 23 centimeters. Actually, if I measure this a little bit better, it's 22 centimeters. And I've got 40 stitches here. I knitted one row. You step 3 stitches and make increases in every row. So this bit here is knitted flat. In total I have 96 stitches here, so I've increased until I had 96 stitches. Then I carried on knitting flat to the bottom of the arm, and then I added additional 4 stitches in the same way as I did here, but here in every second row added 4 more stitches, so that's 96 stitches here plus 8 stitches in total added here. That gives us 104 stitches there. And then once I finished my increases, I added 4 more stitches for the bottom of the arm. The height of this section here is 22 centimeters. Then once that part was done, I picked up stitches along the diagonal shoulder here and here, and knitted these bits separately, shaped the neck, and then carried on knitting down, made the same increases on the under the arm. So 4 more stitches here, and then to add 4 stitches either side, like on the back of the for the under the arm. In this section, I'm going to add a few short rows to shape the bust, and so the back piece and the front piece are going to be knitted separately. I'm making this sweater from leftover yarn that I've got from other projects. I've got a couple of skeins in this yarn. This is acrylic, it's fine fingering weight yarn. Then I've got, I think this is a mohair mix type, and another one which is another skein, which I've got another type yarn, is this yarn, which is meant to be a mixture of wool and synthetic fiber. And I mix the yarns together, which gives me this color blend. Originally, I thought I would run out of the mohair type yarn because I only had one skein originally. Then I thought I would need to substitute that yarn with something similar. Of course, the issue is finding a matching color, a color that is not going to be too contrasting in my knitting. I thought I had somewhere leftover yarn from Drops Kid Mohair. Thought it would have been quite a good substitution. So ignore this is white color. This is not, I'm not substituting with this. It's just a kind of a check on the texture of the yarn, and it looks very similar. I think it's a little bit, the yarn from Drops looks a little bit more, looks fluffier, and would have probably fluffed up my knitting a little bit more than I wanted. However, I've managed to find another skein. So now I should have plenty of yarn to complete it, and I'm very excited. I don't need to spend more money on yarn. Now, as promised, I'd like to share with you the 2 knitting gadgets that I've received this Christmas and only just managed to get them out of the box. So the first one is this yarn holder. So it looks quite simple and should be, the idea of this is to help you hold your yarn in place. So it's got 2 pieces. So the base piece, like this, and the top piece sits on top. Then you place your yarn over this top piece, and then as you knit, the idea is your yarn stays in place, and the bottom piece and kind of this piece here spins and holds your yarn in place. I also received another gift, and I've already opened it as well. It's a yarn ball winder. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with this contraption, or maybe already have this. I know many knitters have this gadget. However, for me, it's a novelty. I've never used this before, and previously, if I frogged my items, I would kind of create a ball like this. For me, it was quick and easy, practical thing to do. However, as I have this yarn winder, I thought, why not combine these two and see how they work. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create yarn cakes with this one, and how then that yarn cake works with this.
So I fixed my yarn winder to a corner of my table. You can see my legs. Excuse my legs. I hope they're not too much of a distraction. And I got this piece of yarn in my stash that I'd like to turn into cake. So there's this bit ridge here on my kind of the top kind of cylinder bit. Just put it there. Kind of put my yarn through these 2 grooves, and then hook it over this metal piece here. And I'm just going to gently wind the handle. My yarn's gone now, it's all over the floor, it's everywhere. But this is kind of the idea. Here we are, after a few goes, I've ended up with this beautiful yarn cake. So I'm just going to now pull this off. And now what's left is I'm going to place my yarn over my yarn holder. And the yarn cake should spin beautifully as I'm knitting it.
And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Bye for now.